All right, welcome. We are live for episode number 2 of the podcast. We think that we have a name, the Loose Lugnut. We'll see if it sticks. We'll see if it sticks better than Chase Elliott's Lugnuts at Nashville. But I am joined as always by my co-host Zachary Brandevold and Aaron Simmons, otherwise known as Simoleon. So, Zach, we'll start with you. What is on your mind tonight?
Oh, I'm just excited to get things going. I'm gonna jump right in to the truck race review, the Gander Outdoor Truck Series. So it was a terrible day for some of the heavy hitters like Bailey Curry, Grant Enfinger, Johnny Sauter, and Stuart Friesen. As soon as the leaders took the green flag, there was a wreck. Jack Wood missed a shift, causing a major chain reaction, ending his day with a damaged truck, which also happened to continue Johnny Sauter's unfortunate luck these past couple weeks, as he finished outside the top 10 the past 5 races, and also with a damaged truck at Pocono on the start. Drivers were complaining about the loose handling conditions that the new Goodyear tires brought, and they were complaining about it all race long. John Hunter was towards the back of the early part of the race, but he made necessary adjustments to win stage 2 and put himself in a good position for the final stage. And Kyle Busch looked poised to take another win from the regular truck regulars. And last year's champion Sheldon Creed, but a late race caution brought out by Friesen, who spun out and backed it into the wall with 10 laps to go, gave everyone hope. So John Hunter was running third, but not really catching Kyle by much. But the caution allowed him to start on the front row. And then what happened next was pretty cool. The top line didn't get momentum, and that allowed John Hunter, who picked the bottom lane strategically. He wasn't in the lead. It was Kyle who was in the lead on that restart. It allowed him to slide up in front of him, and he was able to retain the lead. And Kyle was then bogged down by Sheldon Creed, because he caught up to him, tried to pass him on his inside, and would not Sheldon Creed lost it, moving them both near up into the wall, and lost time to the leader, who was Nemechek at the time. And Nemechek continues to rack up wins and proves the reason why he came down to the Truck Series. I think, Aaron, over to you for the Xfinity Series race.
Alrighty, thank you, Zach. The Xfinity Series was kind of the reverse in comparison to the Truck Series race. It seemed like a lot of the youngsters were trying to learn lessons about how to drive a stock car in that certain type of track. We saw Ty Gibbs overshot turn 2, smacked the wall just a little bit, not right enough to cause too much damage. But then crew chief came on the radio and said, hey, it's a learning experience. You know how hard to push that car. Just keep on going. And it seems like throughout the race, we saw more instances of the youngsters in the Xfinity Series really trying to understand how these cars are working, how these cars are really able to adapt to Pocono. And really, in the end, it was just a veteran of the series, Austin Cindric, taking the win. But Ty Gibbs was on his heels. He was trying to track him down as hard as he could, but just coming up maybe about a lap or two short. And so Austin Cindric grabs his 3rd or 4th win of the season so far, and is really looking poised to take this championship home. And now we'll take it over to Tom for the Cup race number 1 of the weekend at Pocono. Tom, what do you got?
I'll tell you what. What can I say about Cup race number 1? It ain't over till it's over. What's that old saying? The opera ain't over till the fat lady sings. Well, let me tell you, the fat lady was warming up, about ready to give this thing to Kyle Larson, and then we get a flat tire. And I diligently watched the race. I record it. I rewind to watch stuff. I take notes. Who's coming? Who's going? What are all the strategies? I went through this whole race. I have 2 pages of notes on this race. Not once did I even mention the showman, Alex Bowman. So you talk about just coming out of nowhere. You talk about somebody who was right place at the right time, who just kept digging all day and came out of nowhere. I mean, you know, one man's misfortune is another man's great luck, and it really worked that way for Alex Bowman. Hated it for Kyle Larson, but at the same time, you can only feel a little bit bad for Kyle Larson. He's had more than his share of trips to victory lane this year. But man, that race, what an exciting finish. Didn't look like it was going to turn out that way, but came up extremely exciting again, extremely unexpected. Congratulations to Bowman on his victory. But like I said, I didn't see or hear much from him all day, but he was there to capitalize on the opportunity. But that was race one. I think race one very different than race two. So, Simoleons, you want to tell us what you thought about race number two?
Zach, you want to go ahead and say what you need to say?
Yeah, I was just going to say, Tom, was that on one of your list of drivers? I can't remember. I think you're going to have to let the audience know from last week.
You know, I'm going to send you a beer, and I'm going to send you a flat tire with it.
Yeah. Hey, please do. Hey, get it signed by Kyle Larson before you send it to me.
That would be a treasure to be able to grab that flat tire and send it.
Right.
Also, Tom, what you should do is just send Kyle Larson a note and a flat tire saying, "Hey, Larson, because of you, I lost a bet."
Yeah, I should. All right. Enough of my misfortune caused by somebody at Goodyear apparently not getting everything right on that tire of Larson's. But let's talk about Cup race number two. I think you're going to cover that one for us, Aaron.
Yeah, unfortunately, I did not see the first Cup race at Pocono, but I was able to catch race number two, and I gotta say, it was a pretty spectacular race. Already off the bat, due to Justin Haley's really brutal incident and at Pocono, on Saturday afternoon, which caused him to basically have to get out of the car, lay down, and catch his breath. Justin Allgaier was a team player and stepped up to the plate to take his seat for that race. So already off the bat, we got charge change, and already doing a doubleheader for that weekend. My second note for this race is that it was packed. I mean, I know Tom mentioned last week how Pocono, no one really shows up to Pocono, no one really goes to it, but from the race that I saw, it was jam packed, and people have kind of come out of this pandemic and really saw a new light for Pocono and realized how much of a good race it was, a good strategic race. And so it was. So I am just thrilled that stands are being packed again for sporting events. It was irritating for them not to be packed as full as they were, and really glad to have them back. But man, that race was just. It seemed like it was going to be a battle between Kyle Larson and Kyle Busch until Larson had his problems all day, couldn't get anything going. And then Kyle Busch just having transmission issues in stage 2 to come back to win the race. I mean, he couldn't get out of fourth gear. It kept popping out of fourth gear, having to basically drive with one hand and then keep his shifter in fourth gear with the other, come back and winning the race. It was a strategic and really just a who in the world was going to win this dang race kind of race, and it was awesome to see.
Okay, I got something to say about this race before we go into the talk about the SRX race a little bit. Oh my gosh, the poor guys in the booth and behind the scenes, they had to have smoke coming off the calculators. This guy pitted this lap. This one pitted this lap. This one pitted this lap. This guy can make it. This guy's going to need this much fuel. That was even when I could rewind it and watch it from the recording, it was hard to keep up with what strategy everybody was on. So it was both races, actually, the way they turned out were much more exciting than I thought. And I'm going to go back to the curse that I always said I had when I was commentating races. I picked 4 guys, said they'd win the 2 races, cost me a beer, didn't get any of them right. I said Pocono was a track that nobody wants to go to see it because there's not a good seat in the house, that nobody wants to sponsor
Everybody
the
went.
race because it's boring races. And now we have a packed house and we have 2 exciting races. So
Tom,
I am not looking very smart right now. Right now, I am not just on the struggle bus. I am driving the struggle bus.
They filled the infield completely. So first time it sold out ever.
Oh, and how about the people Rutledge Wood was visiting? How about the people with the Christmas display, the 10-foot Santa in June?
Yeah.
Was that not the coolest thing?
That was a lovely touch on the weekend.
Oh yeah, especially the guy that bought the ambulance for his job. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Especially Roach saying like, hey, especially Roach asking the guy, hey, so do the lights work? And the guy said, yeah, that's why I bought it.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, Tom, let's head over to you for the SRX Race 3 review.
Well, the SRX race, which is Tony Stewart's Superstar Racing Experience, they held it at Eldora, which was basically his track. Literally, they were doing it in Tony Stewart's backyard here. Okay. Now, I don't know about you guys, but when I was a kid, whenever we played in my backyard, I always won. I led the league in hitting in my backyard. I led the league in touchdown passes in my backyard. When it was my backyard, I was undefeated. And Tony Stewart, I really think, tried to put on a great show for everybody, and it turned out to be a really good show. He ran really well. The format of that, if you don't watch SRX, you really ought to check it out on CBS because it's really some good racing, is they run 2 heat races. Your average finish in the 2 heat races determines your starting position in the feature. They invert the field after the first heat race. Tony Stewart had the pole. I really think, just as a showmanship example, at the start of the race for the feature, he pulls down pit road and moves to the tail, comes from the tail and wins the race. So that is doing, I guess, exactly what you would expect them to do at his home track, but it was a great show. It's not an exhibition. There's real racing. And next week, Paul Tracy probably going to have a couple of black eyes. He is super aggressive. He's ran over just about everybody out there. Everybody is gunning for him. Everybody's had enough of Paul Tracy. I mean, you got tempers flaring. You got good racing. You got names that you've heard of. It's really a good show. If you have not checked out SRX, you really ought to watch it. It's broadcast by CBS. And they really have. I've watched every race. They put on a great show every race. And Adam is commenting, do they invert the field like front to back? No, front to back. So if you finished 12th, which is, there's only 12 cars in the race. If you finish 12th in heat 1, you get a start at the front in heat 2. And they have 12 drivers, 10 guys from all different fields, everywhere from IndyCar to sport rally cars to NASCAR. Then they have 2 guys. One is considered a local hero who is like a track champion or something, and one is kind of a ringer. So if they're going to a dirt track, they have a dirt track ringer there. But it's really a good show. The people that are doing it are having a blast, and you're even starting to get some of the intensity with some of the rivalries and stuff. But I'm probably spending too much time talking about SRX. Let's move on to our next segment, which is NASCAR news. So, Zach, what you got for us in NASCAR news?
All right. Well, I got some juicy articles here for you guys. So the first one we're going to talk about is probably one of the lesser important ones out of the 3 that we're going to be talking about tonight. Todd Gordon, Ryan Blaney's current crew chief, is stepping down at the season end. He was also, if you don't remember, Joey Logano's crew chief, and actually I believe for a stint he was also Brad Keselowski's crew chief as well. What do you think of this move, and is it a strategic move, or do you think he is just done with racing, guys?
I'm not sure if he is done with racing or not. We got other stories about other things going on at the Penske camp, and I'm excited to see what Ryan Blaney can do with a little bit different different crew chief. He's a guy who's kind of been a 1 win a year kind of guy. Last year, he had a lot of speed in stages 1 and 2, but couldn't put it together in stage 3. I'm not sure what's really happening, because I think there's other changes going on at the Penske organization right now.
What about you, Aaron?
I was kind of looking at this article right here, and I really think he's just trying to step away from racing just for at least for the short term future, just to kind of be with his family, be with his kids. He's getting up there. He's getting up there in age, and he doesn't really have anything left to prove in NASCAR. He's shown himself to be a top tier crew chief, and he's won races, he's won championships. So I really think it's just him trying to step down, be with his family, and really just ride the slow lane for a little bit.
Gotcha. All right. Well, I'm going to take over in this last part, and I want you guys to put on your tinfoil hats for me, because I have an interesting tidbit. I think that Todd Gordon is going to travel with Brad Keselowski, and that's a new story that we're about to go into, to Roush Fenway Racing and be his crew chief, because they had a connection earlier on and helped jumpstart Roush's resurgence and potentially grow the team. That's going to be mine. But we're going to have to see. I'm going to move on now. Brad Keselowski's moved to Roush as a part owner. What do you think this means for Newman, and what do you think this means for Penske? Tom, Aaron, let's start with you first.
I mean, it really can hurt. Roush hasn't really been that competitive the last 2 years, and so I really think with the addition of a competitive driver such as Brad Keselowski to really kind of jumpstart that organization and maybe get some new ideas in, some new takes, some new, really, I guess, sponsor additions to Penske, to Roush, that'll be a very hard thing to transition to next season. I really think this is going to benefit Roush in ways, just so they can get some fresh minds in there and really kind of just try something new to get that team back up and running and be competitive again.
All right, Tom?
I'm not sure what it means. I'm not sure what it means for anybody. I think it starts a very interesting game of musical chairs that we'll see playing out. And we've had some fun, and maybe we do this the next episode of us doing our own version of musical chairs and where we think everybody lands. I'm interested to see if Austin Cindric moves into the 2-car next year, or if he goes to the 21, as was the original plan. If he goes to the 21, does that mean your boy Matt D goes over to the 2-car? I think the musical chairs at Penske are much more interesting. Yeah. I think that this helps Roush, but I think it hurts Keselowski more. I think he is in the prime of his career. He is probably with the number 2 organization right now next to Hendrick Motorsports. I think Penske's probably the number 2 organization. I think he's moving to probably the number 6 or 7 organization. So, I think it helps Roush, but I think it hurts Keselowski more. I think there's a lot going on there. I don't think he likes having Joey Logano as a teammate, and I think that's probably part of the reason. So I think it's going to be interesting. But we've been doing our own version of little musical chairs and how we think the silly season is going to play out. That maybe we'll work that into the next show.
We're going to have to.
Interesting stuff. But I think there's a lot of unknowns at this point.
All right. Well, my thought process on this is Brad Keselowski wanted to change the scenery. He's been at the same organization, same support for a lot of years now. And he missed the ownership role that he had with his owning his own team and trucks and helping out the younger guys. A lot of the guys that are in Cup right now, you see like Tyler Reddick and Austin Cindric's about to move up. He wants ownership stake so that way he can grow an organization with them. And Roush, I don't think they're a 6 or 7 organization. I think they're on the up and up, because if you look, you have Chris Buescher, who last year was struggling to make a top 20 spot. Now he was on the inside looking out for the playoffs this season. So I think, maybe Newman, I really think that Newman is probably going to retire after the season, or maybe find a part-time ride. I think Keselowski takes over. Penske's going to be a completely different scenario. Jonathan Hasler, who is Matt DiBenedetto's crew chief right now, helped build and create the new gen cars that Penske is going to run next season. So, that is a valuable crew chief asset to have as far as working on the cars. So does he want to stay at the 21 or move up to the 2? Obviously with Todd Gordon retiring, I think there's going to be another shift in crew chiefs with the Penske organization, which they seem to do the past 3 years now, which is absolutely insane in my opinion, because what isn't broke, you shouldn't fix. But we're just going to have to see. Moving on to the next thing, Jeff Gordon joins Hendrick Motorsports as executive vice chairman. What does this mean for Hendrick and for Rick Hendrick and their future expansion plans?
Okay, let me go back to the Keselowski thing 1 minute, because I want to go back to, I wrote an article for a website, Racing Refresh, start of the year, and I predicted Keselowski would leave, but I didn't predict he'd go to Roush Fenway. But let's talk about the wheels for this move were set in motion last year, and I think it was a huge, very, very strategic, very, very, very big picture thing. Brad Keselowski last year only signed a 1-year extension with Penske. And at the time he signed that, listen to the drivers whose contracts were going to be up this year. Now, some of them have been renewed, but when he signed that, Eric Almirola and Cole Custer at Stewart-Haas, Alex Bowman at Hendrick Motorsports, Christopher Bell and Denny Hamlin at Joe Gibbs Racing. Really, Keselowski to me is showing a lot of business acumen there by signing a 1-year extension when he knew there were going to be 5 drivers in top tier rides having their contracts expire this year, which put him in a great bargaining position. So I think the wheels that were put in motion for this last year when he signed that 1-year extension, and I think it just shows that Keselowski is no dummy. He is a shrewd operator. But sorry, go ahead to the. I'll let you talk about the Hendrick stuff, Samoli, and I want to talk about NASCAR ownership in general.
Yeah, go ahead, Aaron, with the Hendrick Motorsports news.
Well, I really don't know what to make of the Gordon signing. Obviously, it's great for Jeff because, of course, he got his career in Hendrick, has basically built Hendrick up to a top-tier competitive organization. And at this time, I don't really think I don't really know what to make of the news, other than Gordon has a place on the NASCAR board. I mean, obviously, he was a high-ranking driver and member of Hendrick Motorsports while he was still racing for them. He's partial owner of the 48 car anyway, and so I really think that's why Hendrick decided to put him back into the management position at Hendrick. But right now, I don't really know what to make of the Gordon signing as of right now.
Okay. Tom, what do you have?
I want to look at some of these things that are going on right now that I think are big picture. You've got some legendary NASCAR owners, Hall of Fame owners that are kind of getting deep into the twilight years. Joe Gibbs is 81. Okay. Rick Hendrick, I think, is turning 80 this year. I think he's 79, turns 80. Jack Roush is 72. These are legendary owners that kind of created the sport as we see it today. And we need to have some kind of transition plan in place as these guys start to really, I'm sure, want to start to slow down and aren't able. I mean, when you're 80 years old, I just don't think you're going to be able to take on the same amount of stuff that you could when you're 40 or 50 or even 60. I think what we're starting to see is Jeff Gordon in that executive vice chairman role. I think he's being set up to potentially be the man that continues kind of chapter 2 of Hendrick Motorsports. I think that Keselowski going over there, not just as a driver, but as an equity owner too, is positioned to do the same thing with Roush Fenway. I'm not sure what's going to happen at Gibbs. He's got, I think, more of his own family members maybe involved than some of the others. But I think we're seeing legendary owners that are deep into their twilight years. And I think part of this is the transition that we're going to see to this next generation of owners, that this next generation is not just going to be Michael Jordan and Pitbull. It's going to be a continuing legacy of people like Hendrick and Roush.
Yeah, definitely. I completely agree. Jeff Gordon, obviously, an amazing driver and legendary, absolutely legendary, and put Hendrick on the modern map there. Yeah, I think this was. I don't see many people not seeing this coming. Jeff Gordon as an integral part of Hendrick. He joined Fox, I think, as more of an intermediary role. Trying to fill out his post-race career roles. And, like you said, I feel like this is a direct connection. Jeff Gordon stepping up, becoming the next man up. And, Rick Hendrick is getting up there. And I think, it's only a matter of time. I don't really know who takes care of Penske, maybe Tim Cindric on the Penske organization as far as their side. But you also got to consider, Roush Fenway Corporation, also LeBron James also owns part of that. So you really got 3 basketball players invested in NASCAR now, which is pretty cool in my opinion. But as far as future expansion plans, I think Jeff Gordon, we're going to have to see, but with his comment over the week about Jimmie Johnson being an integral part of Hendrick Motorsports, even still, I think it kind of hints that they want to expand. They want to broaden their horizons and not just NASCAR and move into some other motorsports. So we're going to have to see and keep on top of that. And I'm excited just by the new faces and challenges.
So Adam Lauer's making a couple comments here. He says that Joe Gibbs looks pretty good for being that damn old.
Yeah.
And how do we think Jimmie Johnson would be doing this year if he didn't retire? And says Jeff Gordon's ex-wife is somewhere licking her chops. As good as everybody else is doing at Hendrick, I think 7-time would be doing pretty good. I think that the whole organization has stepped up, and I keep going back to that move of taking Chad Knaus off the pit box and making him director of competition and overseeing how the cars are built at the Hendrick shop. I think that was a huge move that didn't get a lot of attention. So I think 7-time would be doing pretty good this year. I think he'd certainly be in the mix for the playoffs. And with the way Hendrick's been running, wouldn't have surprised me if he had grabbed a win or 2 along the way. And as for Jeff Gordon's ex-wife, we don't talk about ex-wives on this show.
No, not
That's
at all.
a subject that hits close to home for me, so we don't talk about ex-wives.
I don't know. I think Jimmie Johnson's move to IndyCar was a good one. I think he made the right decision. Maybe he would be closer to Bowman's performance over the season. I don't know necessarily he would have those 3 wins, but who knows? I think he is doing what he loves, which is expanding his motorsport prowess. So we're gonna have to see.
All right, let's transition to our next topic, or our next segment of the show, who's hot and who's not, where we each go through and tell us right now, who do we think is hot and who is not. So I'm going to mix up the order. Aaron, let's go to you. Tell us who's hot and who's not.
All right, so for my hot and not, who's hot right now, I'm going to go with Kurt Busch. Excluding Sunday, where he basically had to pit for fuel because he was just about a lap or 2 short. He could have had about 4 top 10s basically in a row. And right now he's looking solid for the playoffs coming into July. And really that's my hot pick for right now. Who is not? I gotta go with Martin Truex. His last finishes, again, besides Sunday, has been all outside the top 10, the top 15, hell, even the top 20. And so right now, something is a miss at the 19 camp. They look to be turning that around on Sunday, but right now, I'm not sure what in the world's going on at the 19. Maybe they're just kind of laying back. Maybe they're trying some new stuff to use for the playoffs, since he's locked in right now with 3 wins. So yeah, that's my who's hot, who's not.
Yeah, I think right now Kyle Busch is kind of the only guy out of the Gibbs camp that's really showing a lot right now. So yeah, I think Martin Truex and the 19 team is definitely one of really three teams at Gibbs that are kind of struggling. But Zach, who have you got for your who's hot and who's not picks?
All right. So who's hot? I am going to go with Trackhouse Racing. They've been aggressively, or they've been aggressive. They have been progressing nicely over the past couple weeks into a weekly top 10 contender. They've been beating their main competitor 2311 most weeks with amazing strategy and terrific driving. The resurgence of Daniel Suarez is nice to see, and they're certainly seriously in contention for a playoff spot heading down the road. They are also pumping out some of the best paint schemes this season. Headlining them is my personal favorite, the Tootsie's Bar that they had for Nashville, that purple pink paint scheme. As far as who's not, I'm going to say Fords in general. And I know that recently they've kind of, they got a pull in Nashville, and they had 4 drivers in the top 10 at Pocono. But other than that, they have been struggling to keep up with the dominance that Hendrick has been putting out on, and the more recent success that Toyota has had over the past couple weeks. Although they did look better, it's a stark contrast. Ford did, although they look better these past couple weeks. It's a stark contrast from what they were a season ago. They're not regularly competing for wins. In fact, when they win, it's a surprise rather than poised remarks. A rumor I've yet to confirm suggests that 100 pounds of rear downforce was shaved off of all Fords before the start of the season, making them increasingly hard to control. We'll have to see how that affects them going forward, and if that is necessarily the case. So hopefully it seems like Stuart Haas has been doing a little bit better over the past couple weeks. Even though Penske drivers, all 3 of them have wins, they don't seem to be regularly competing other than maybe Logano for top 10s every single week.
Okay, all right. So Adam Lauer says Kevin Harvick is low-key hot, doing really well. When you start saying the Fords are not hot, Adam, that sounds like fighting words. We may have to have you and Adam on here doing like a debate over that one. He's apparently a Harvick fan. But I guess I am the last one to go here on who's hot and who's not. And I'm going to follow a little bit along the lines of what Mr. Aaron Simmons said. And I'm going to say the Busch brothers in general are hot. Kurt Busch has gone from outside the playoffs to making a huge run, getting consistent finishes, running really fast. And I really think even not just him, but I feel like Chip Ganassi Racing is doing well. We had Ross Chastain running second at Nashville. And I feel like Kyle Busch is back to where he was a few years ago. It seems like we're getting to the point where now every week we're talking about Kyle Busch having a chance to win and Kyle Busch running up front. And of course, he did grab one win this weekend, but it seems like he is back to being Kyle Busch, whether they got stuff straightened out at the Gibbs camp or the fact that we're doing a little bit of practicing now helps, or whatever it is. But he seems like he's back to being Kyle Busch, in my opinion, at least over the last few races. So I'm piggybacking on what Aaron, and I'm saying that it is the Busch brothers. As far as who is not, Rudy Fugle, William Byron's crew chief. That's who I am saying is not hot. I really thought he blew this a couple of times during the race. One, he came in and took tires when nobody he was racing around took tires, so he lost a ton of track position. And then when it comes time to make that final pit stop, or what was almost the final pit stop, he tells William Byron to go, and then about 3 laps before he's out of fuel, he says, now start saving. That is, to me, the worst possible decision. You either save or you go. And he had an 11-second lead on the people he was racing with. He was racing basically with Hamlin and Kurt Busch. Okay, he had an 11-second lead. That's a lot of fuel. You could put a lot of fuel in the tank if you're coming down pit road with an 11-second lead. Instead, he winds up letting that entire lead evaporate because he starts saving and still has to pit. So to me, it was a matter of saying, he just made the worst possible decision out of that by letting him run, then telling him to save too late, and having that 11-second lead he had evaporate. So I'm going with Rudy Fugle. Bundy says, how can we not say Larson is hot? We've said that so many times. Everybody knows that. Everybody knows Larson is hot. That's a given. So, but can't argue with you. Larson is definitely hot. But let's get back to our regularly scheduled program, and this is maybe my favorite segment. Okay, this is green flag, red flag, where I am going to read a statement, and these guys are going to tell me green flag or red flag. So green flag, they agree with it. Red flag, they disagree with it. So are you gentlemen ready for green flag, red flag?
Let's do it.
Yes, sir. Crickets.
Tom, were you there?
Sorry. I'm not a very good producer. Okay, statement number one. Rudy Fugle cost William Byron the race by not telling him to save fuel early enough in stage 3.
Go ahead, Aaron.
Yes, green flag for the eternity of time. I mean, if you were the crew chief, you have this information basically down to a science. You should have known the fuel stops. And if you knew your driver was going to be short by that much, why are you not telling him immediately as soon as you leave the pit box to save fuel? So yes, that's a complete green flag. Rudy completely cost William to win, and that's the biggest brain fart of the season, I think, so far.
Yeah, I also have to go with green flag. That was pretty ridiculous. He didn't call it soon enough, and I don't know. It should have just saved sooner. Sucks for William Byron because he's been on the receiving end of some good luck this season, but it's only a matter of time before that luck runs out. So kind of helped him with that one.
I'm actually going to say red flag because the statement is, did he cost him the win? And he was pitted on the same lap as Denny Hamlin and Kurt Busch, two veteran drivers who know how to save fuel. Both of them had to come to pit road on the white flag lap. So I got to believe that unless Chad Canals sprinkled some pixie dust on that fuel tank or that engine back at Hendrick Motorsports, even if he had saved, he would have probably had to come in the same lap they did. But I do think it cost him several spots in the finishing order. So I still think it was a bad decision, but I don't think it cost him the win. I think he would have probably had to come in the same lap as Hamlin and Busch, but he could have came in with an 11-second lead over them. So,
yeah.
Sorry, do you have something else to say, Zach, before we go on?
No, go ahead.
Okay, question number 2 or statement number 2. Jeff Gordon and Brad Keselowski eventually take over as owners at Hendrick Motorsports and Roush Fenway Racing.
I am going to say green flag. Both have been in the news recently for taking leadership roles with their respective teams. I think Brad got an itch to be the team owner again since his hiatus in the Truck Series. Yeah, if you remember, he started the careers of Austin Cindric, Chase Briscoe, Tyler Reddick, Ross Chastain, and even Ryan Blaney in the Truck Series. So I think he's hungry for something more.
And I will go red flag for Jeff Gordon, green flag for Brad Keselowski. Brad Keselowski had, of course, as Zach and Tom both mentioned, he does have the experience of running a team. He ran the Truck Series team, BK, I believe it was BK Racing. Or Brad Keselowski Racing or something like that back in 2012, 2013, somewhere around there. And so he does have the experience of running a team. He knows the obligations are. He knows how the ins and outs of running that organizational role. Jeff doesn't. He does have experience of partly owning a car, but he doesn't really know how to run the business as effectively as Brad Keselowski, I think. Even though he does have a higher job title, technically, I don't think he will assume the position of the overseer of Hendrick Motorsports.
I'm going to say I think green flag on both of them, but I think that ultimately Keselowski might be the more successful one because, as Zach pointed out, he he's got an eye for talent. He knows what it's like to be a team owner. He's made all those decisions before. So I think that they both eventually step into that role, but I think Keselowski maybe is a little more successful at it. We have Bundy006 saying green flag. And Adam Lauer saying, what did happen to Keselowski's team? And I really don't know. Do you know what happened to it, Zach? I'm not sure.
He folded. It kind of just, I think after the Truck Series regulations of team owners not able to go down there and regularly races, he didn't like that rule, and so he pulled his team out. Also because of financial issues, I believe, as well. So both of those reasons caused him to move it. An interesting anecdote: he actually is running a 3D printing company. I forget what I think they produce car parts or something along those lines, out of the same facility that he ran his race team out of. So just he still owns a company. So pretty interesting.
Okay, question number 3, green flag, red flag. Pocono was the most exciting fuel strategy race in the last 10 years.
Go ahead, Aaron.
I will go green flag. I'm going to go green flag just for the sake of it was because we had 2 races this time. The second race being 10 laps longer than the first, and so we saw teams trying to really kind of course, smoke their calculators to see just how fast it can produce fuel calculations, and teams really kind of knowing kind of how far they can stretch their cars out. And so I really think the fuel mileage race this week was even better than the last 10 years. Zach, to you.
All right. I want clarification. Do you mean in all of motorsports or in NASCAR only?
Let's say NASCAR only.
Okay.
No,
so,
I'll tell you what. I'll let you answer it however you want. You tell me how you want to interpret it.
I got 2 different answers for you.
Okay.
All right. So overall, entire motorsports, I'm going to have to say the best fuel mileage race was the 2017 Indianapolis 500, where Alexander Rossi was, as a rookie, was trying to win his first Indy 500. He was going half throttle down the backstretch and the front stretch, saving, because that's what they had to do. They were having fuel issues trying to put fuel in the car all race. And so they just gambled. They said, well, this is going to have to work because we can't come in to quickly fuel you. So this is going to have to work. You're going to have to save. And he did it, and he won, and that was amazing. He's my favorite IndyCar driver, but that's beside the point. In NASCAR, I'm going to go with, and to go with green flag, red flag. I'm going to say red flag. I thought the 2016 Xfinity Auto Club race, I think I sent you a link. I don't know if you could pull it up. But after you had Kyle Busch blowing a tire, still driving around the track with a left front blown, and you had Daniel Suarez coming underneath him to take the lead, but then right after he took the lead, going down the backstretch, he ran out of fuel, and going into 3, Kyle Busch passed him with a blown left front tire, still driving around the high side of the track. And it wasn't till the front stretch, I don't know, 30 meters away from the finish line, Austin Dillon passed Kyle Busch for the win and the lead late in the race. I thought that was the most exciting. And, Pocono, it was fun. You kind of had that with Kyle Larson blowing a tire, but I watching that 2016 Xfinity Series race was absolutely amazing.
Well, okay, now Zach, everybody gives Zach a thumbs up for he's either got a photographic memory or he did some serious research on this, but those were some great memories to recall there, Zach. So I got to give you props for that. The way I was thinking of it, I was just thinking of Cup Series and NASCAR, and just because there were so many people, so many different strategies, so much to keep track of, I thought it was extremely exciting. So I would give it a green flag. But let's go to question number 4. And I think this is one of the most interesting ones. Pitbull is a better team owner than Michael Jordan. And we are restricting this to NASCAR. We're not talking about like Jordan's ownership of basketball teams or anything. But Pitbull is a better team owner than Michael Jordan.
I am going to say green flag. And I'm going to say green flag for this season right now. I'm not going to look at the outlook of their future seasons. I'm just say, starting up the teams, how they were both brought in, I'm going to say green flag, because I would say Pitbull and Trackhouse have overachieved in their first season. They've gotten top 5 or top 10s. They've led laps on merit at the Bristol Dirt Race. And that's significantly better than 2311. 2311 was barely ready to go for the first race at Daytona. Michael, they had their car for maybe 7 months before. And it's just been evident throughout the season, the terrible finishes compared to what they were last season. I think they got their first top 5 this past race, Pocono 2. And before that, their top 10s weren't there. And they haven't been a consistent threat like Trackhouse has. I think Pitbull has poured more money into sponsorships, sponsoring his car, with his own company and schools. And he's engaged. He's had more engagement for his team as well, where we haven't seen much of Jordan at all on track or on the car with his Nike brand sponsorship. So I'm going to say green flag.
I will also go green flag, especially for this season. It seems like Suarez has been more competitive, especially in the last few races, than Bubba Wallace. The cars have looked a lot better for Trackhouse than 23XI. The management side, as Zach said, has been a lot better for Trackhouse. Yeah, so yeah, at least for this season, as of right now, I would say definite green flag.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go green flag too. I feel like Trackhouse Racing with Daniel Suarez, they've not just outperformed their equipment. Over the last 5 or 6 races, they have flat out outperformed that Team 2311. They've had better average finishes the last 5 or 6 races, and definitely doing it on with lesser equipment and probably a tighter budget. And I got to say, I think that the big winner of this whole 2311 team is Joe Gibbs Racing. The last 2 teams that have affiliated themselves with Joe Gibbs Racing were Levine Family Racing and Front Row. Was it Front Row Motorsports? Was that
Furniture Row?
Furniture Row Motorsports. Furniture Row. Sorry, both of them went out of business. Okay, yeah. For financial reasons. So Joe Gibbs has a habit of taking these teams that are affiliates and milking them for all the money he can get out of them until he puts them out of business. And I'm sorry, if that's just the facts. And I got to believe that Joe Gibbs, when he saw Michael Jordan becoming an owner and knowing his net worth is in the billions, he had to start licking his chops. So I think the big winner in this is Joe Gibbs Racing. And I think there's no doubt that one is an absolute green flag.
Tom,
we are starting to. Sorry, go ahead, Zach.
I just want to add 2 seconds. You also have to look at, essentially this 99 team is a satellite team for RCR who have the engines, the dominant engines this season. So I also have to point that out. And long term, Denny and Michael Jordan aren't going anywhere. I don't see them going anywhere. They got the funds to compete. It just all comes down to preparedness of this season. And frankly, Trackhouse absolutely had it on top compared to Michael Jordan's team. So go ahead.
Okay, so we are running a little long on time, but I think we've had some really good discussions and some interesting points. So let's do a quick preview of next week's race. Okay. They're going to Road America, another road course, a place that I don't know if the Cup Series has ever been to Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. I know the Xfinity has, but I don't know that the Cup Series has. Long laps, 2 minutes to get around this place. It's got to be right in the wheelhouse of Larson and Elliott again. So I'm expecting to see Hendrick kind of return to running up front on a road course next week. But Aaron, let's go to you first. What are you looking forward to about this 4th of July weekend of racing?
Well, I do want to point out that NASCAR at one time has been to Road America back in 1956. Won by Tim Flock, and of course they had all the NASCAR legends in there: Lee Petty, Buck Baker, got Herb Thomas in there, and so they did run there once, and that was about over 50 years ago. And
Once
so,
again,
yeah.
I have to commend my co-host for the level of research they
prepare
have
for this
done on this
show.
stuff and the
We
preparedness. I am so impressed, but I am feeling like I need to be wearing the dunce hat here in the class.
No, Tom, don't trust me. If it's anybody, it's going to be me.
You just need to learn how to produce.
I do. Anyway, go ahead, Aaron. Sorry.
Yeah, and guys, remember, this is only show number 2. I mean, we're going to get better as we go along, as we start to learn this kind of platform, as we start to kind of just feed and kind of bounce off each other. We will get better. So I want to say it at least that way. But yeah, they did run here again just once. And so really if you're going to pick a driver this week, I would definitely go with the road course ringers. Especially I would kind of go with, again, Larson, since he just seems to dominate everything. Chase Elliott, I would definitely kind of go with probably even Suarez. It's kind of a dark horse pick.
Interesting. Well, for this next race, I cannot believe, but we're going to have NASCAR Cup Series back in Wisconsin at Elkhart Lake. I love that. I mean, as you can see, I'm a Packers fan, so my heart is in Wisconsin, even though I live here in St. Augustine. So, I love the fact that they're coming back here. Road America is probably one of my favorite tracks ever. But yeah, like you said, it's going to come down to the road course ringers, and I have Chase Elliott because he has an average of eighth place over the road courses this season. Of course, he has the win, although he has struggled this season. He seems to maintain his form at road courses. He has an average running position of 6th right now, and that's an average of all road courses over the course of the season. The long front stretch and the long back stretch as well are going to be favorable for those Hendrick engines. I just think that they're going to dominate. You got to also look out for Logano, who has the highest average finish, I believe, around 3rd place at all the road courses. Allmendinger, Larson, Hamlin as well, all favorable positions.
Yeah, I think it's going to be road course ringers. I think we're all in agreement it's going to be the guys who traditionally run well at road courses. But we are up to our parting shots or our final comments, our white flag comments. So I will go first, and I just want to say that, I am looking forward to this. Look at where we are. It is Sunday, is the 4th of July. We're doing NASCAR racing on the 4th of July. We're all back to gathering in big crowds. We've kind of coming out of the pandemic. I think what a great time it's going to be. We're going to have fireworks. We're going to have racing. We're going to have the 4th of July on a weekend. I think this weekend we are just going to see the best of what America is all about. I am excited for it. I can't wait for it. And I hope it lives up to my expectations. So that's all I got as my parting comments. Zach, what do you have as your white flag comments?
All right. I'm going to quickly go through this. Ty Gibbs has been amazing this season, but I want to point out this tidbit of information. The 98 team, driven by Monster Energy co-star, because Ty Gibbs is also sponsored by Monster Energy, Riley Herbst, which last year that their car, the 98 car, won 9 races and nearly the championship, is sitting only 20 points ahead with 8 more races than Ty Gibbs. Take a guess how many top 5s Riley has this season, Tom.
None.
What do you think, Aaron?
I'm gonna go 2.
One top 5. It's very possible that he'll be overtaken by Ty, with it being announced that Gibbs running at Road America, this Xfinity Series race, in a 5th JGR car number 81. Gibbs continues to have an unimaginable finishes, finishing around 2.6 average finishing position when you remove his uncharacteristic outlier of 18th at Darlington. I don't know if there's a limit on how many races you can run declaring the championship, but he may very well run out the rest of the season if sponsors, which I would be, come knocking down his door.
I'm telling you what, I'm seeing next week's green flag, red flag. Ty Gibbs is the next Kyle Larson. That'll be one of our green flag, red flag statements next week for you guys to weigh in on.
Oh, man.
But, Aaron, what is going to be your parting comments?
My parting comments are, I think we're going to see kind of the same problems that we saw in Nashville, kind of plague road America. Because, like you said, it's a 4th of July. People are starting to get out more. The crowds are starting to get big, and stands are filling up. And especially, there's going to be lots of beer there. And so I love how the Milwaukee Journal has published an article about what you need to know about the NASCAR weekend at Elkhart. And the first 2 things they say is that Sunday will be vastly different, and get your tickets early. And the third thing they mention is parking is limited. So if you are going to take that trip up to Milwaukee, to Elkhart, just know it's going to be kind of a challenge. And so I kind of think that Road America has learned some lessons from Nashville and applying it to Road America, which is a great job by them. But I think we're going to see a very good day of racing on July 4th.
If there is one thing that Wisconsinites love more than cheese, it's going to be beer and racing. And you combine both those this weekend, they're going to show out. It's going to be a packed crowd. Believe it.
Well, it sounds like we're all looking forward to it. So I hope we have a lot to talk about next week. But we are probably going to be doing this every Tuesday, 9 o'clock. So appreciate everybody that tuned in. I know we've got some viewers that have tuned in that weren't in the comments, but I don't know if we acknowledged Bundy006. Appreciate you tuning in. Appreciate all the comments from Adam Lauer. Don't know if I've missed anybody else in the comments, but thank you guys. Set your calendars.
V for Vidi.
Subscribe to the channel and get the notifications so you know.
And then some guy called the setup man. I'm not sure who he is.
That's the setup man. I'm pretty tight with him. He's a good guy. Trust me.
Howler 361.
But we will be setting up our own YouTube channel when we get enough of a following here. But also, if you have anything to say or anything you like to see or you like to discuss next week or changes you'd like to see, give us some feedback, what you thought of the show. We are obviously early on episode 2. We're learning, we're growing, and we're hoping to make it a little bit better every week. But thank you guys for tuning in. And with that, I think we are going to all say goodbye, and we'll catch you next Tuesday, 9 o'clock, and we will be talking about Road America. Thank you guys all for the support.
Also, guys, and for the 4th of July weekend, please remember to drink responsibly and be safe.